Spectrovision Radio.
Hey friends, I want to tell you real quick about another project I've been working on called Anomaly. It's an audio series that's this pretty unique blend of storytelling and guided meditation. Basically, as you listen, you become this character in a ruined land that needs your magic to heal. I didn't write this thing, but my company, Voltage, did a lot of the editing, music, and sound design. And I can honestly say I haven't heard anything like it. Immersive, transportive, and also, yes, award-winning. Specifically, the Signal Award Listener's Choice for Most Innovative Audio Experience. We talk about meditation a lot on our show, but whether or not you consider yourself a person who meditates, I think you'll really dig the magical world of Anomaly. It's sort of like those apps that make you feel like you're being chased by zombies to motivate you to do cardio, except significantly less stressful. Actually, the opposite of stressful. Okay, it was a bad comparison. Anyway, if I've piqued your interest, you can find out more at seekanomaly.com and use the code MAGIC to get 60% off your first month of full access. Oh, and by the way, Anomaly is spelled with an I-E, not a Y. But also you can find a link in the description, of course. Okay, that's my pitch. On to the show.
Welcome to Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs, the biggest podcast in the freaking universe, where we talk about all the things they told you weren't real. Spoiler, they're real. My name is Tom, and I'm joined with my pals, Jordan and Mallory. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey, I just realized that I didn't plug my microphone in.
All right, holding for Mal.
Hold on. There we go.
Today we're going to update the Three-Eye Atlas saga. Still hasn't destroyed humanity yet, but we're all waiting. We're going to talk about the intense and emotional world of English psychic pub nights. I didn't know what that was either. And we're also going to dive into the stinky universe of the Florida skunk ape, led by our intrepid reporter, Mallory Everton.
So, the skunk ape, I was pretty delighted by this story. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but generally, cryptid news is always in quotation marks because usually there's nothing new that's going on, and that's true in this case too, other than the fact that on October 5th, the Mid-Florida Bigfoot Research Group hosted the Everglades Skunk Ape overnight campout and investigation. So that's what makes this news, is that this very recently happened. But it's always an excuse. Any little thing like this, like an event, is an excuse to unearth all the information on a cryptid or just some juicy tidbits. And there are a couple things about the skunk ape, which is essentially Florida Bigfoot. Am I right, Tom? Is that incorrect?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Smelly
Stinky.
Florida Bigfoot.
It's known for its smelly fur. It's got a very smelly coat. But there's one man in particular that was centered in this article. His name is David Shealy, and he saw one in 1973 when he was 10 years old and then became totally obsessed. He said, after my first sighting, I got immediately obsessed. I made a camp like a tree house and spent hours out there thinking about the skunk ape. I would go out scouting for it, and that is how it began. And it's adorable. And he more recently opened, in 1997, recent-ish, opened the Skunk Ape Research Center in Okeechobee, and it is ranked one of USA Today's 10 best roadside attractions as of 2024. So there have been over 354 sightings of the skunk ape, and Shealy himself estimates that there are 7 to 9 skunk apes that live up to 60 years living in the Everglades, and he's found 3 nest-like structures. They're made of like cross sticks and palm fronds with a little crawl-in opening.
Jackpot. I found it. Look up there. That's about 50 foot up in the tree. That's a bedding area. This is where the skunk apes come into these swamps. They feed on the pond apples. A lot of these plants that you see are pond apples around me. Most of the pond apples have been stripped.
And it's just very satisfying to have somebody who's got theories, but also has seen things. But there's video as well, which I think you should watch.
Yeah.
It was made in 2000, so it's 25 years old. People look at this is a quote from David Shealy. He says, people look at the video and think it's just someone running in a gorilla suit. They quickly dismiss it, but once you are out here and you see the harsh conditions, you realize how ridiculous that is. The animal was moving through 2 feet of water. It's not standing on dry ground. Not even marathon runners brought here to reenact it could come close. Because it is keeping a very steady clip. And if it's true that there is 2 feet of water, I don't think a person could move that fast. So it's a pretty fun video. And it's during the day. It's far away, which is what we expect from animal footage, even of any kind, unless you're all hidden like a nature photographer.
It's like so much clearer than I would have expected for
I know.
a video like this to be. It's like no, that's
I
that's
know.
It's actually pretty astonishing.
It's a great video, and I hadn't seen it before. And it
great video.
definitely doesn't look like
Holy
a bear. It walks different than a
that
bear
is not
does,
a bear.
you know?
No, that's not.
Yeah.
No.
That is not a freaking
There's like,
bear.
well, it's cool. There's like a heat map on the timeline too, so you can see like which parts people have replayed the most. And so if you jump forward to the end of the video where it's like replayed like crazy, it's like sort of astonishing. Like you know why people went back and rewatched that segment over and over again.
Yeah, right?
I'm watching the last bit, and that's now. I will say, it looks more like a human being moving than the, say, Patty in the Patterson-Gimlin film. The gait of that animal is so not human. Its legs are always bent at the knee, and it's just, however, I believe them when they say, we tried to get human beings to move that quickly in this medium, and it wasn't going to happen.
But it looks very fast.
Yeah.
It
looks
a compelling
I would say,
video.
I don't know if it looks human to me. What I will say is it looks very humanoid to me. Like it looks very, very bipedal, but it doesn't really look ape-like at all to me either. I don't know. Man, it actually gives you a little bit of like the uneasiness. Like I'm watching something that's not familiar.
I had never seen that video before.
Creature.
That thing is hauling ass.
Yeah.
It's a good video.
Are there bears down there anyway? Maybe black bears, maybe. Do we even know?
I don't know very much about what else is in the Everglades. There are alligators and deer. There's a lot of cryptid lore down there for that reason. And I think it's also tricky to get footage of things because it's so dangerous. It would be a good place to live if you didn't want to be found.
Alive.
But there's actually so much skunk ape. I mean, obviously, they have the research center. There's also like the group this is a separate group run by a woman named Marie.
I will say that black bears do live in the Florida Everglades, but the one thing that we can be certain of is that a bear cannot literally run and swing human arms, which it doesn't have, for like a minute and a half through a marsh.
It's
like that is not a bear. It doesn't have the snout. Nothing about that resembles a bear. So then what other creature could it be? Either a Florida skunk ape or a dude in a suit. And it sounds like the physics of it might preclude dudes in suits.
Yeah. Even a very, very fit person could probably not move that way in 2 feet of water. And brush as well. It's not like it's just water. It's very, very, very fast. It's cutting through it like butter. It's pretty cool.
Remarkable.
The woman who runs the Mid-Florida Bigfoot Research Group that had the event, they didn't find anything. This was back on October 5th. Her quote was that some people heard a couple tree knocks in the distance and, quote, a few folks also saw an apparition of a man standing near the trail who walked off. That was just like a side note. Like, they were out all weekend, and that was what they found. Some people heard some tree knocks, and somebody saw a ghost, I guess. But yeah, her name's Marie Dumont. But the skunk ape is so storied, and I didn't realize this, but there was actually an attempt at an act passed in 1978 called the Skunk Ape Act, because the Florida State Representative Hugh Paul Nichols was concerned that someone was going to hurt the skunk. So it was criminalizing harm to the cryptid. And I included a link.
It's floridamemory.com?
floridamemory.com. And you can actually read, there's 24 pages of like the original, like him submitting the bill.
That's
it's
amazing.
Pretty exciting. Yeah, it essentially, it makes it a misdemeanor. So this was never passed, but I find it like delightful and incredible, and it speaks to sort of the culture at the time that he was taking this seriously enough. If you read the bill, it says any person taking, possessing, harming, or molesting any anthropoid or humanoid animal which is native to Florida, popularly known as the skunk ape, or doing any act reasonably capable of harming or molesting such animal, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor of the first degree, punishable as provided in blah, 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 blah. It wasn't passed, but I just think, obviously, people believe in it. Not just believe in it, but they're convinced.
I mean, you don't write a bill for something that you think
right?
It's so much tedious work to do this. I mean, I love how there's like notes all over it. There's like there's like margin notes and like
mark
and you can read the conversation.
It's incredible.
You can read the conversation. There's like a decent amount of the conversation that's like the Nichols is being asked, like, well, how do you tell what gender the skunk ape is? Like, they're just talking about the skunk ape and how to identify a skunk ape and how we know. He also includes like this whole letter from this guy who played the skunk ape in a movie. Anyway, I'm just saying it's delightful. I'm completely delighted.
This might be my favorite.
Those are the facts.
Yeah, this is incredible. I'm sorry. I'm on page. I just randomly went to page 7 of this document, and my eyes went to the middle of the document, and it says, "Representative Nichols, may I have my goodies back? Thank you." Representative Fontana, you mean we passed that bill? Representative Haben, yes, we'll take care of it at a later time. This is the minutes that were taken by someone.
I know, it's a really charming conversation.
I feel like I have to read the whole thing to understand what he's talking about when he wants his goodies back.
I know.
What
I
year was
sadly
this?
did not have time to read. So this was 1978, I believe.
So it was a Toastmaster executive bong and his kind nugs in a goodie bag. That's because we've been doing so-called cryptids that are really like, let's just say folkloric.
Yes.
Like the squonk, our beloved
The squonk. We love
and
the
also
squonk,
the Fresno Nightcrawlers, the late lamented Fresno Nightcrawlers. But this just seems very animal to me. And I'm really interested in Sasquatch or crypto hominid territory because you've got them in the Himalayas, right? With the so-called abominable snowman. You've got him in all over the Pacific Northwest. You've got him with the rougarou down in the swamps of New Orleans. You've got the skunk ape in the Everglades and so many more.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's an invasion, Tom.
They're everywhere that people aren't.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of places people aren't in. And so there's a lot of places for other things to be, like skunk apes.
Who may not want to have anything to do with us.
No.
And so that was very humorous to me to go like, what's the one way to guarantee that you'll never catch a skunk ape is to bring about 30 people out on a camping trip. Come here,
exactly.
Come on, come
That's
closer.
not going to work.
Elusive creature. No, it's not going to work.
When David Shealy he said that he got 28 photos at one point from a tree house spot because that's where he has gotten the footage in the past. So yeah,
and he's still alive. Is he still alive, Mal?
He's still alive.
Let's
alive.
interview him.
He's like, that's a great idea.
Let's interview him.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
I would love that.
That video is too good.
No, it's great.
It's a very good video, and it does actually seem like he genuinely, like there's no question about it. He's the world's authority on the skunk ape.
You put something else in chat. What is this?
Yeah, Mallory, you sent us this picture. Please explain.
Oh, the greatest. Oh, my God.
This is actually just something Tom mentioned as I was saying that we were going to cover the skunk ape. So, Tom, you said alleged photos of a skunk ape. This is from 2000. I don't know who got this. This is in Sarasota, Florida. It's a crazy photo.
Okay, this is the story. This is the backstory of this photo. She got 2 photos. She was an elderly woman who was having fruit stolen at night, I think off her porch. And so she decided that she was going to catch the perpetrator and armed herself with a camera with a flash. And so it happened again. She walks up to who she thinks is the person stealing her fruit and started just taking pictures with her flash. And she got this.
It's
and then
horrifying.
She's like, what she does is she sends the pictures and a letter to the local cops saying, hey, there's an orangutan on the loose and it might bite people and give them hepatitis.
Okay.
And the cops are like, we don't know what to do with this. And she didn't have any idea about skunk apes or anything else. Here's the letter she wrote. Just look at the pictures while I read this. Dear Sir or Madam, enclosed, please find some pictures I took in late September or early October of 2000. My husband says he thinks it is an orangutan. Is someone missing an orangutan? It is hard to judge from the photos how big this orangutan really is. It is in a crouching position in the middle of standing up from where it was sitting. It froze as soon as the flash went off. I didn't even see it as I took the first picture because it was so dark. As soon as the flash went off for the second time, it stood up and started to move. I then heard the orangutan walk off into the brushes. From where I was standing, I judge it as being about 6.5 to 7 feet tall in a kneeling position. As soon as I realized how close it was, I got back to the house. It had an awful smell that lasted well after it had left my yard. The orangutan was making deep whoop noises. It sounded much further away than it turned out to be. If I had known it was so close to the hedgerow as it was, I wouldn't have walked up as close as I did. I'm a senior citizen. And if this animal had come out of the hedgerow after me, there wasn't a thing I could have done about it. I was about 10 foot away from it when it stood up. I'm concerned because my grandchildren like to come down and explore in my backyard. An animal this big could hurt someone seriously. For 2 nights prior, it had been taking apples that my daughter brought down from up north off our back porch. These pictures were taken on the 3rd night it had raided my apples. It only came back one more night after that and took some apples that my husband had left out in order to get a better look at it. We left out 4 apples. I cut 2 of them in half. The orangutan only took the whole apples. We didn't see it take them. We waited up, but eventually had to go to bed. We got a dog back there now, and as far as we can tell, the orangutan hasn't been back. Please find out where this animal came from and who it belongs to. It shouldn't be loose like this. Someone will get hurt. And she goes on. It's one of the most charming letters I've ever seen. And then I read somewhere, which I can't locate right now, that what is being expressed by that open mouth, teeth-bearing posture of whatever it was that she captured is a threat response. It is my understanding, and please correct me in the comments, whoever knows better, but that it's a primate like surprise / threat response. So this thing got completely, I think, scared out of its wits by the old lady with the Kodak, and it took off, even though it's 7 feet tall in a kneeling position.
That's the craziest part of the letter to me. I'm like 7 feet tall in a kneeling position. That's awful.
I love the
That's incredible.
Is anyone missing an orangutan?
Yeah,
You know how, like,
That face, that's not the face of an orangutan, by the way.
No. Well, we like cryptids because it's like so cool to imagine that they exist. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if that existed? And like it sort of keeps alive the air of mystery and the enchantment of the world. And I'm sorry, this is not enchantment. I'm not enchanted. I don't want a 9 foot tall, smelly ape man to exist. I don't want it to exist. I think it probably does exist.
I think it does too.
I don't want it.
I will be honest, like full honesty. I want cryptids to exist so badly. We've talked about this before, but I usually think they don't. I usually am like, probably not. Probably there's an explanation. It's a person in a puffy coat. Somebody fell asleep in the brush and stood up when they heard people, whatever. Like there's usually some kind of explanation, but this is a situation where I feel pretty convinced. I feel pretty convinced.
Me too.
Yeah.
Can we be grateful that it didn't rip her arm off?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
every
well,
Yes.
time, like if you look at Patterson Gimlin film, the things like, don't follow me. So, you know, you guys are creeping
Right.
me out. Like every
Yeah.
time they're like, I'm out of here.
I'm outta here, yeah.
I can kill you in a matter of
Right.
seconds. I choose not to. And sometimes we all smell bad. It's okay.
we don't have to be so judgmental.
It's true. It's true. I did have a baby update about our YouTuber. I just wanted you to know that this week he played the guitar for it for 20 minutes, and I did listen to the whole thing.
Was it an original song or a cover?
No. He did Fear the Reaper. And some Nirvana. He played at Greensleeves as well.
He played it green sleeves.
I just wanted everybody to know that he's been doing more tests. He also hit it with like a blowtorch, and that didn't do anything. But yeah, just so you know, he's still out there bopping.
We never stopped to consider what it would be like if an unexplainable artifact of unknown non-human origin wound up in the hands of just a guy.
Just a guy.
He's just a guy.
Just a
That's
guy.
like why I like this content so much. I'm telling you, I take notes on every little video, and the one from 5 days ago was just him being like, no more Mothman. I don't really know what's going on. Waiting for something to pick up the story so it goes more mainstream. And then the next one, he mentioned that he was like, I don't know, like I'm hoping that eventually something happens with this. I have to work for like the next 5 days, but maybe I'll do some tests tomorrow, whatever you say in the comments. Maybe at some point I'll need a lawyer, but I need to get someone to sponsor a lawyer for me because I'm not well off in the slightest. I'm actually pretty young. It's the first time you mentioned that I'm like, yeah, because Jordan early on was like, I could see how somebody who grew up online would behave this way and react this way. And he was like mentioning his dad's workshop, and I was like, oh, he might be at his parents' house. He might. He didn't say that officially.
I mean,
But
he
yeah, he's
he
just doing
reads
more
really
tests.
young. He reads like a young 20s to me. Like that's
Yeah.
what he seems like. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons that we love this thing so much, I love this thing and you guys love this thing so much, is that it is a very fresh take on this story. So like whether or not it's real, and it could be real, I'm not ruling it out.
Right.
But regardless of whether it's real, it's a totally fresh take on the story. Like we've seen government recovers UFO like story. We've seen super competent civilian recovers UFO. We've seen scientists recover UFO. We've seen total idiot recovers UFO, like even that sort of comedic storyline. What we've never seen is just regular guy.
Regular
just
guy.
like
Regular
guy.
This is
Doesn't
like-
know what to do with it. Literally sits on it for weeks or months, spraying water at it and hiding it in the
I know.
basement.
It's like a Chekhov play, you know. If you introduce non-human intelligence, you know, hardware in the first act, by the third act, some dude is going to be singing "Don't Fear the Reaper." Do it.
Well, that was the other thing too. I was like, oh my gosh, I would freak out if this was all just a guy who wanted to play the guitar on YouTube. It was like working
Oh
his
my
way up to
gosh.
being able to get his music on YouTube. I would be like, I need to marry you, sir. You're a genius. This is the dumbest thing. But he actually was
man.
he didn't sing because he was like, I don't know, because I probably couldn't carry a tune probably. So I was like, okay, so the guy's tone deaf and he's
So
never
it's not
tried
even.
singing.
It's definitely not about that. He's like,
What's
I
that
just
line
don't know
from-
what else to do for you guys. I do know how to play the guitar. I can't sing, but I know how to play a guitar. So here's some guitar music, I guess. Sorry, there's not any more interesting update about my UFO that I can't
Pretty
explain.
much. The last video was of a rotisserie chicken.
Damn, this guy. This is high quality.
He was so distracted while he was making the video because it smelled so good. He was like, I can barely think. I need to eat this.
I want to talk about a fascinating piece called The Spiritual and Emotional World of Pub Psychic Nights by Josh Bullock and Carolyn Starkey, which ran last month in The Conversation. It's so good, in fact, that I want to quote their opening verbatim. Quote, At a Bristol social club, a psychic medium scans the room, inviting the spirit world into a space more often used for drinking and darts. The medium is talking to a small audience, mostly women. She says she is giving them messages from their loved ones who have died. She says she is mentally communicating with a very young child in the spirit world. A teenager raises her hand. Could it be my baby? I lost a baby last year. Aww. And begins to sob. A hush falls. Strangers cry. The medium comforts her and tells her that her lost baby is well, growing up in the spirit world and looked after. The girl, though still sobbing quietly, seems relieved and grateful. Through 16 interviews, a survey of 84 people, and formal observations at psychic nights, we found that for attendees, these events blur boundaries between sacred and secular, grief and humor, skepticism and belief. Measuring the popularity of pub psychic nights is difficult. Many are advertised locally with little digital trace. There is no central record of how many take place, and few appear on national ticketing platforms. But proxies, such as Google search data, suggest these events are increasing in popularity. The past 8 years have seen a 600% increase in Google searches for, quote, psychic night near me in the UK. Now, here's what stood out to me about this piece. Overwhelmingly, the majority of attendees, as well as the psychics, are female and working class, and we're talking about 95% of them. Many of them are dealing with issues of grief and loss. They meet in public places like pubs or social hangout places, which are considered accessible, welcoming, and safe. The mediums encourage audience members to take time for themselves, assert boundaries with partners or children, and trust their instincts. In some cases, these messages provide a sense of agency, helping people to make difficult life decisions or come to terms with loss. For working class women especially, these nights offer a space where emotional labor is validated, grief is acknowledged, and hope is offered. Mediums and psychics that are connected to spiritualist churches are trained and accredited. They are not allowed to offer health advice or make predictions for the future, though in the reporter's observations, not all who operate in pubs or clubs follow this. Although I absolutely believe in the reality that people have access to extrasensory information, be it from the collective unconscious or departed souls or psychic readings of audience members, I don't know. I also know that in the best of times, this is a fraught process. Messages can be garbled or vague, while the medium through which the messages come, literally the medium, also adds another layer of influence. And this isn't even mentioning the obvious frauds posting as mediums. And we all know they're out there. So while it's impossible to assign a percentage of how many self-professed mediums or psychics are frauds, we know that they exist. Since this was part of the piece that I had the most questions about, I reached out to the Spiritualist Church with an interview request for one of their mediums. I would love to talk to, I know that we would all love to talk to one of them on psychic nights.
Count me in, absolutely.
Also the way that they are accredited and all that sort of stuff. I'm very interested in that. Setting that aside, the rest of this story sounds like the makings of a healthy, mutually supportive community. And these kinds of social expressions appear as inevitably as water will find its level. So what do you guys think about psychic pub nights?
Awesome.
I want to go to one so badly. That sounds amazing.
It seems like definitely an opportunity for really great, wonderful, positive, constructive things to happen, and also just like a bunch of dumb stuff and potential exploitation. Just like, that's, I mean, like anything, right? Anything that's sufficiently sort of grassroots is going to be pretty fraught. There's both great risk and great opportunity. You know, it's the Wild West effect. You're going to have some really awesome experiences, and you're going to have some potentially dangerous experiences, and probably a lot of nothing too. Probably a lot of just like entertainment posing as spiritual insight. And I would posit that, like, if I had to guess, even to the tune of making a bet on it, I would bet that the majority of these things and these people are somewhat legitimate. Because I think that a lot of effort and time goes into making these kinds of things happen, and I think that people overestimate the amount of motivation someone can get from defrauding people, if that makes sense. It takes a lot of work to get to the point where you could have like a psychic pub night that people show up to. And so I think that there's going to be some natural self-selecting screening going on that makes the majority of these things pretty great.
Yep.
The danger is always people like narcissists or sociopaths, but that's just true regardless of how you get involved with those people. Like,
For sure.
You don't want to run into a narcissist or a sociopath in a dating environment or in a working environment or as a psychic, because they're not going to be properly engaging. They're not going to obey the rules of society and polite society in a way that's healthy for people. And so that's my main thought. When does this sort of thing become dangerous? I think it's when there is like actual malintent, or the way somebody like that, say, eats through dating apps is like maybe similar to how someone might. I'm just trying to think of worst case scenarios in this situation. It's like, well, you can just keep meeting strangers, and you can if you keep meeting strangers and like torching strangers, they're not connected to each other, and you can just keep going. And so I could see how maybe a psychic is just working through first timers or first or second timers. But I doubt that that's the majority, just the way I don't think that's the way most people are engaging in the dating market. Like, they're just nightmares that are just can't keep anyone in their vicinity. So that's one concern. And then my other question is kind of around, when does finding meaning in something? Because I would say that most of the time, what people are trying to deal with when they're approaching a psychic is grief or uncertainty, which is a type of grief in some ways. Like, you're possibly grieving a life you might not have. Like, will I ever have money? Will I ever be comfortable? Will I ever fall in love? Will I ever find love? That's what makes these people vulnerable. And I guess my question really is, like, there's probably a spectrum, but like finding meaning and hope, even if it's maybe not true per se, when does it become damaging for a person to believe that their loved one is around or that they're okay?
Yeah.
Is it terrible for like some quote unquote charlatan to tell you that your baby's okay, even if they don't know? Like, I feel like most of the time, as long as the person is still engaging in their life, they're not like rescinding into a world of like nothing but like figments and ideas, then I would say this is net good. Even if there are some bad actors occasionally.
Well, this is what's so beautiful about it to me, is that these people are going out and meeting each other. They are forming communities, which speaks to this thing that both of you have talked about, which is the sort of self-selection of these relationships.
Right.
I would imagine that over the course of time, if you live in Bristol, which is not that big a place, and you go to these things, if there's a medium or a self-proclaimed psychic who's a dud or clearly just sort of making stuff up, they're going to be rejected by that community. And then the rest of the community is getting together and offering solace, and like mutual support. This is lovely. My understanding is that people come in, they pay £1 to £5. They need to order a drink or two and then just listen. It's also interesting to me that these are predominantly female people, because I think what you said, Mel, is exactly what it is, which is vulnerability. That you not only are you feeling vulnerable, you're going to a public place around a lot of strangers to feel vulnerable and maybe talk to somebody about the specifics of your vulnerability. What if you had lost an infant and then you go to a place like this and someone says, I'm talking to a baby? That's really, really, really intense. And it takes a whole lot for that person to show up. And, and I think that there is some healing available there. Now, we should be concerned with people being taken advantage of, but I'm not, to me, this seems like a lot of upside.
So I think that the big sort of razor for exploitation is usually around money.
Yes.
So when you want to pay somebody for their services, you put yourself at a greater risk. You also introduce a larger incentive for fraud, right? Because like if you can convince people to pay you, then you have an incentive then to give them something they want to pay for. Like this is a very simple equation. We understand this deeply, which is why anytime we accuse someone of lying, we try to find a profit motive for the lie. Because if there is no profit motive, then it's a little less clear about why they might be lying. There's other reasons, of course. There's attention. You want to be famous. You want to be, you want to be regarded in some way. Like there's all kinds of reasons, but the easiest reason is money. I don't know if you guys heard a relatively recent episode a couple of weeks ago. The telepathy tapes did mediumship under the microscope. And they talked about the Forever Family Foundation, which does rigorous certification tests for all the mediums that they employ. I think this is really interesting because, we've talked a lot about community building, and this is kind of something we're talking about here, of like all these sort of smaller-ish communities who, they're not really appearing online. These aren't ticketed events. These are just, communities getting together to do this thing, and that it's kind of this, like you were talking about, Tom, I would say there's a sort of social immune system going on too. Like if somebody is exploitative or a bad actor, like they will get squeezed out of that community eventually. That's how communities work. That's what makes them so valuable. But if you were to introduce some kind of more systematized service of saying, hey, there's an organization that employs mediums to perform a service for a fee, then you have like a real need for a kind of a certification process so that you can be credentialed in that system. And I want to point out here too, because we talk a lot about horizontal organizations, but I think there's also like, you still need vertical organization too. Like there is somebody who gives the certification, and then there's somebody who receives the certification. There is somebody who is an authority about who gets to have a certification, and then the person who wants to be accepted by that authority, which is a form of vertical organization. So I think that in all of our conversations about community organizing and about how to understand how to relate to each other and how to have these conversations, and then, the thorny conversation around somebody, for instance, employing themselves as a psychic, I think it's worth talking about the advantages and disadvantages. And I'm not saying we talk about this all the time. I think that people need to be aware of the conversation to have it. What are the advantages and disadvantages of vertical versus horizontal organizations? When is what appropriate? When is what needed? In a circumstance where there's not a lot of money being exchanged, but there's sort of more communal support, like you don't need a lot of maybe vertical hierarchy. You just need to understand that relationships matter and are persistent over time. Whereas like if you're wanting to provide some sort of service and try to like scale something and try to have a wider impact on strangers, then you're probably going to need some kind of vertical organization.
That was interesting about this piece with the spiritualist church, to whatever extent they do certifying or vetting these psychics and mediums, which I do think is important to the extent that any of that sort of stuff has been formalized. I'd love to know more about that too. The thing that I love about this is that, everybody needs to make money for their work and eat and pay rent or whatever. And what I love about this is that if you were going to employ one of these people yourself, you'd be out of pocket quite a bit of money, maybe $200, $500. But if you go to one of these psychic pub nights, you're out the equivalent of like $10, because everybody else is pitching in too. And so that way you can get together, you can just check out, you can vibe it, and maybe make some friends in the process.
I'm super interested in that. I hope they start doing them in LA. I want to go.
There's got to be something sort of similar in LA, right? LA has everything.
Put your ears out. Put your ears out.
I will.
Please let us know in the comments, guys.
But I'm serious.
I legit very much want to know. In fact, I'm putting out a request right now. Please all caps this request, everyone. I want to know what's legit in LA in terms of hypnotherapy and in terms of like mediumship and psychics. I want to know what's legit. Energy healing. Like I don't have any personal experience with any of these things, and I would love some personal experiences with some of these things. And so please, I live in Los Angeles. There's got to be so many people who are here who are legit, but if there's one thing LA is not short on,
or charlatans,
it's fakers.
There's so many people who are like side hustling. I meet so many people who are in training to do this kind of thing as well, where it's like, I'm becoming a palm reader, I'm doing this other thing, and it's like, it's cool, but it's also, I don't know, is it a party trick sometimes? Or
can we conduct a very brief business meeting on the air? Because I've always had this idea since we started that part of the show would be like each of us being a guinea pig.
Yeah.
So each of us like going to the Monroe Institute and going through their week-long something, or,
as soon as somebody wants to foot that bill for me, I will go.
Jordan visits a medium.
As soon as someone wants to foot the bill for me to go into the Monroe Institute, I am
and who
there.
is going to fit the bill,
Jordan?
subscribers to our Substack.
Absolutely. Vertical
Whenever
hierarchy.
the freak we roll out a Patreon,
Yes.
because like honestly, we will do this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and I would do it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And according to our own sort of
And report back. I can't wait to
boundaries and
talk about it.
sensibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also game, and the only thing I won't do, and it's because Tom told me not to, is F with Ouija boards. That's
No, don't. No.
Yeah. No.
I won't ever do that.
No.
I'm going to draw a line around blood rituals as well. I don't want to do
Oh,
that.
by the
stuff.
way, I meant to say this, Jordan, when you were talking about your Substack about how AI is the Antichrist. I literally read a piece where ChatGPT just volunteered a whole bunch of information about safe bloodletting in order to perform a profane ritual to the baby-killing god Moloch. And somebody asked ChatGPT about it, and they're like, "Yeah, no, that's
I got
a great
some
idea.
information for you.
I
mean, it's out there. It's in the ether.
And then
well,
it
again,
got-
what do
and
you
they were
expect
like-
when you ask a bag of words? You know?
Right, and it's
Oh
like,
my
is it ever
gosh.
moral to kill somebody? And ChatGPT is like, it's a good question, And I'm like, oh no. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, Moloch isn't real, but that's never stopped
but
AI
GPT
before.
is.
Yeah, and it was literally giving them tips on how to
Yeah.
self-harm
Wow.
for a blood ritual. Anyway, you're welcome. Just thought I'd jump in with that. Wonders never cease.
What a time to be alive.
A couple of notes here. First of all, last time I didn't come as prepared with some of the dates, the important dates. One of those dates is October 2nd, just about a month ago when 3i Atlas hit its closest proximity to Mars, which was within 30 million kilometers, which in, cosmic distances is like, I think, stone's throw, basically. And the high-res camera aboard the Mars orbiter, one of the Mars orbiters, took several images that NASA hasn't released, and Avi has a couple of words to say about that. He went on News Nation a few days ago to talk about it.
What's NASA potentially hiding about 3i Atlas?
Well, on October 2nd, 3i Atlas came closest to Mars, within 30 million kilometers, and the high-res camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter took several images of it. These are the highest resolution images we have. 3 times better in spatial resolution, about 30 kilometers per pixel, compared to the previous best image, which was the Hubble Space Telescope image. And that was a day after the government shutdown took over NASA, and we haven't gotten the data. And my point is that the politics of the day should not sabotage science. They have the data. They should share it with scientists. They can wait with any press release. But for the scientists to analyze the data, that would serve an important purpose of helping us design the future observations of this object.
The important point that I think Avi makes here is that you need data to figure out what kinds of things you need to observe in the future. And so every day that goes by, the comet changes position. There's other opportunities to observe. Most recently, for instance, just a few days ago, 3i Atlas hit its point of perihelion, which is the point that it was, in its orbit that is closest to the sun. And that was also a point at which it was behind the sun. So we couldn't actually directly observe it while it was at perihelion. And a lot of people were kind of, sort of existentially upset about that because a lot is going to happen to a comet when it gets really close to the sun. And apparently a lot did happen because it got really, really, really hot. And it also changed its trajectory in a way that was not explainable by gravity. And Avi makes the point elsewhere, including his own blog, that the prosaic explanation for that is that it ejected a lot of mass, but that it would have had to eject so much of its mass that we should easily be able to see that when it gets a little bit closer to line of sight for us to look at it with our telescopes and get more data about it. So there's still a lot of mystery. There's still a lot of anomalies. If you go onto Avi Loeb's blog, there's a couple of posts that he's done. Well, he's been posting about it a lot. But he actually, I'll share a link to this one in particular that has a list of like 9 different anomalies, and which I thought was really great. Again, there's not really any sort of conclusive, conclusion about any of this stuff, but it's like saying, here's 9 different things that warrant further explanation or observation, or like we just should try to figure out why this is the way it is. And so I've gone down the rabbit holes here. There's a lot of data, in the interest of trying to provide the meta takes instead of like get into each individual thing, which I don't feel qualified to do anyway. In fact, in many of his posts, there's like a lot of math. Like, and this is one of the things I really like about Avi is that he shows his work. He's like, oh, here was a theory about why this is happening. So I went and did the math because I would like to know, like what we should observe. And then he writes down all the equations. He writes down all the inputs and the outputs. He tries to, he basically shows his work. He's like, this is what I did to try to get to this conclusion. This is the thing that I continue to so much appreciate about him is that it's not just about the hype. It's not just about getting onto all the different podcasts and news segments or whatever. It's about he's genuinely curious, trying to find answers. There's one take in particular I found, and it was on a podcast called the Hannibal TV UFO channel, which is not the most reputable source potentially, but I really appreciated this particular take in this particular clip I saw, and I wanted to share it with you guys.
The other thing that they are missing is, in difference from situations in science that very often have no impact on society, in those situations, when you observe, for example, an exploding star billions of light years away, has no impact on our life. If we misinterpret it, nothing bad happens. So scientists better stick to the most likely explanation for those events and completely dismiss any alternatives. That's fine. But when you deal with a situation that has impact on humanity, on society, you can't ignore a small probability event or possibility because when you multiply a small probability by a huge impact, you get a significant outcome. And so that's well known within the intelligence agencies, within, when they assess risk. For example, many terrorist attacks are assigned a small probability because most of the time they don't happen. But nevertheless, there is a contingency plan, and the security forces have put a lot of attention to the details. When they see anomalies, they immediately check, does it indicate that there is a risk or not? Why do they take it seriously, even though it's unlikely? It's because the impact would be huge. And scientists are not used to that. So when they realize the probability is small, they just dismiss it, ridicule it, don't want to discuss it. But when the implications for society are large, you can't do that. And they should be educated about that, because that's the whole point of intelligence agencies or security forces. They have to take into account low probability events just because of the huge impact that they have. And in a situation where we have a visitor to our backyard from another star, we must monitor those anomalies and take it seriously. It makes no sense to ridicule the discussion on events that people say are low probability because the implications are huge.
What he said is exactly right. So, if it's billions of light years away and we get it wrong, who cares? It doesn't matter. However, even if there's a small chance that it may be something utterly unknown and unpredictable, isn't it better that we find out about it, because its impact, a word that I despise, but its effect on us could be immediate and significant. And I'm like, that's exactly right. And that's sort of how I perceive him, as a very bright and accomplished iconoclast. So his job, I think, is to constantly poke the bear with a stick. And the bear is just being very bare right now. It's not like, hey, wow, we're so excited about 3I Atlas. Look at these images we have. They're like, what, why are you so interested in my forbidden closet of mystery? And I'm like, why are you doing this? And so his thing, which I agree with, which is we can't rule out aliens. We have questions. Conversely, when he says this is unusual behavior, it's unusual behavior for phenomena we're already familiar with, that is to say comets, not interstellar objects. Mm-hmm. Our sample set of interstellar objects is now 3.
A couple of thoughts. One is, he's 100% right that everything that we're witnessing is unusual according to comets that we've seen, which have been generally local. He's also right that it's unusual compared to the other 2 interstellar objects that we've seen. It's like not like either of those objects. That's also worth noting, but it's also, again, the very, very small sample size, which we mentioned in the last episode we covered 3I Atlas, is that like you can't really make generalized statements about what interstellar objects are like because we've only had 3 of them. But all that said, it's worth pointing out that even if taking into account we haven't seen very many interstellar objects, you still have some guesses as to what an interstellar object ought to look like based on what we understand about physics and the universe, right? And this thing seems to be defying a lot of those assumptions. There's plenty of possibilities there too. One of the really strong possibilities is that the universe is not quite like what we thought it was, in many respects, in many very, very important respects, which is, again, to hark back to the James Webb Space Telescope, we're already learning that. The universe is not like what we thought it was. So that's a really big deal. But it's also, there's another point, I think, about Avi Loeb's perspective that is important to take into consideration. I don't think that this is good or bad. It just is, which is that he has come to the conclusion in his own sort of perspective, and he's been very open about this, that he doesn't think that it's unlikely that there are other civilizations, that there are other intelligences in the universe, because he looks at the Fermi paradox and he's like, this isn't a paradox. There's obviously other people out there. Or like, not that he assumes that it's definitely true, but he thinks that there's a high probability that there is. And if there is a high probability that there are other intelligent life forms, civilizations, whatever, out in our galactic or universal neighborhood, then you would then sort of logically assume that there would be evidence of that. And not only would there be evidence of that, but there would be enough evidence that if you just started looking, you'd probably find some. And so his stated objective is, I'm going to start looking in the way that people haven't been looking, and I'll bet I find some. And he's not saying he's definitely found some. He's just saying, hey, every time we see something that's really anomalous or that sort of defies our prosaic explanations, we should take a very, very hard look and be very rigorous in figuring out exactly why that thing is anomalous, because there is a good chance, in his estimation, that it could be an artifact from a non-human intelligence. And I think that that's a perfectly reasonable stance to take as a scientist. You got to take some stance. You can't come up with hypotheses from nothing. And so it's not him, trying to convince everybody that this is an alien artifact. It's him trying to say, we got to stay open to this, and we got to be really, really rigorous about figuring out what these anomalies are, because like he said, the impact would be huge if it turned out to be this thing or that thing. And it already is huge, right? That's the thing, is that even if it just absolutely widens because it's in our local neighborhood, because we can see it really clearly, because it's a huge vault of data that we've never had before. We spend decades and billions upon billions of dollars getting a new telescope up into the sky so we can see outside of our atmosphere farther into deep space, so we can learn more about stellar chemistry across, different galaxies. And then this thing just shows up like a gift from the heavens with an immense amount of data. And it seems like we should feel totally obligated to study the crap out of it and to be as transparent and fast about it as possible too. I also went and looked at the orbital path of this thing in a 3D rendering. It's really cool to watch. And it's actually really stunning to see. If you look at the orbit visualization, it really is pretty remarkable how the comet passes so closely to Mars and Venus and Jupiter, and you could easily see how it might look like a planned flight path, because it's it's so perfect. But it's moving really fast. It's going really fast. It's not going to be around for very long. And so for NASA to drag its feet for any reason, whether it's we don't have enough funding, we can't show up to work or whatever, for anybody to drag their feet about sharing data that we have is kind of inexcusable. So I'm not really out here saying I think that they're hiding stuff from us because there's anomalous data that they don't want people to have. I think it doesn't matter. Any reason is no good reason for not really quickly sharing data, because within the span of 30 days, less than 30 days, it went from its closest proximity to Mars to be its closest proximity to the sun, and then back in view again. We're talking about weeks. And every week that goes by that you don't have all the data that we've been able to collect as the human race on this object is wasted time. Because in a year, this thing is going to be outside of our solar system.
Yeah, I mean, how frustrating. I'm part of the problem because I feel so just apathetic about it. Oh, surprise, surprise. We're in the bed and caught with our pants down in front of what could be some of the biggest questions in the universe, because we can't get past our own nose. That seems par for the course.
Yeah.
I don't think that's part of the problem. I think it's clear that so much of our collective resources have gone into bureaucratic systems that don't work in the interest of our
non-functional
collective interest. It's obvious, right?
Yep.
And the other thing is that this is happening now. So you have Avi Loeb, and you can talk about he's an iconoclast, and he wants as much data as possible collected. This is all really groovy. But the other thing that's happening contemporaneously as a direct result of that, and a direct result of the death of actual journalism, in our society is that he's just become like Harvard man clickbait, imprimatur, where it's like Harvard scientist says that, and then you just go on. I'm not saying it's aliens, like clickbait crap. So while he's all about scientific rigor and all that stuff, one of the results of him even raising these questions is a bunch of hooey that just sort of comes out, and then people are, on Reddit are building quite complex, cosmologies involving 3I Atlas and DNA upgrades.
Sure.
Yeah. There's no middle ground. It's like you either get that or you get this sort of like, if you watch through the whole News Nation clip, you can clearly see the host losing interest as he's talking. She's like, so by the time he's done talking, I'm like kind of hanging on every word because I'm like, this is a very well thought out thesis that he's presenting here. And it's like, and it's pretty succinct and very clear. And like, it seems very important and urgent. And she's like, yeah. Tell us when NASA releases the images. All right. Talk to you later, Avi. So frustrating.
Have you two seen the movie Don't Look Up?
Yes.
I have not, no.
I need you to watch it.
You go ahead, Tom.
All right.
It's right up your alley.
It's actually really, over the past couple of years, become one of my comfort movies. And I know that it's like a kind of...
it's a downer comfort movie.
It seems like it, but it's actually because I just feel so much less alone watching it. But Tom, it's essentially about like... astronomers discover that an asteroid is going to hit the planet, and like they pretty much just can't get anyone to care about it. Like it just like it just like dissolves into the media and like the news media ecosystem and the government ecosystem until it's just no information.
I loved the preview for that movie. Like loved it. It was like my song. The preview was so good. The movie itself I thought was pretty good, but like whatever. The concept is incredible. Like that's beyond doubt. Like the idea that there would, and also so imminently believable. Like
that's the thing.
That you could have something so sort of massively impactful be sort of just absorbed into the partisan hellscape of our current dialogue and just disappear.
Well, that's how this
it.
feels to me. That it's like there's a Kate Blanchett plays a character that reminds me of what you're saying with the newscaster getting bored. It's like, we have another segment that's coming up, and if you could be more attractive or interesting, that would really help. But you're not, so just stop talking, Avi Loeb.
Yes, exactly. From your like janky Harvard office like Zoom call set up,
which makes me believe him and trust him even more.
I will say this, to gather these news stories, I have a number of Google searches up, and a lot of them just return stupid things. But what I've noticed is the pattern of a kind of a static environment of sort of delayed gratification, where it's like, the universe is really boring, and maybe aliens don't care. Are there aliens? Scientists say that maybe we could figure out a way to detect if maybe it's like, and in my own mind, I go to the bait and switch that is always at the heart of a delayed gratification scheme. Whereas, in fact, I wonder if that sort of knowledge or enlightenment on many different levels of things that we consider to be profoundly important in our lives is actually imminent, that we could discover it and that it is available to us. And yet these sort of structures that we live inside, societal structures of journalism or the dissemination of knowledge or whatever, are way more content, NASA are way more content with just sort of like the slow, plodding, inevitable, leave it to us, we'll tell you what's important sort of thing. And I'm sort of chafing at that. And then the corollary is the Reddit thread where someone like notes every time the live feed from the space station cuts out because they claim that a spaceship flew by. And I don't know what's real.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. So anyway, how do we end this episode? I don't know.
With Mal
Somebody
just
needs
leaving.
To crack a joke. Yeah, we end it with Mal just leaving.
Oh, I have an idea. We can try the guaranteed episode ender that Mal gave us, which is Mal saying, We cut to the clip of Mel saying, "Boom goes the dynamite," with the explosion gif that we did with Rich Haddam, and we just sort of like we sit around and talk about how we can't end the episode, and then we just do that, and then roll credits.
Yeah.
I hate it.
You know what? I had one more thing to say.
What?
I had one more thing to say. Boom goes the dynamite.
Okay.
Sure. Great.
Thank you, guys. Couple of quick reminders before you go. First off, if you haven't left a rating on your platform of choice, please do that. One of the first things people look at when they're judging a show by its cover is the number of ratings it has. So if you dig what we're doing, show it with stars. In today's epilogue, we talked about Tom's theory that Disneyland is actually purgatory, the actual boring purpose of enlightenment, and how some people can change your life just by offering their complete and undivided attention. If you want to hear it, go to godsghostsufos.com or find the link in the description. See you next week, friends.